Huh?
And that's our music. Welcome, baby Mia.
Wow. Okay.
She's absolutely gorgeous.
Yes, she is.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks, you guys. Welcome, my segment co-host and recruitment and career coach, Joseph Stetter, and of course, our special guest. I hope I pronounced it right, Liam Kearney.
Pretty close, yep. Kearney.
How are you? How are you? So, in typical fashion, I'm going to do some intros, but before that, yeah, Frequency 5 FM page where we should be live streaming. And as you guys all can see, we have a little guest tonight as well, baby Mia, born to
best job ever being a dad. Best job ever.
Oh my gosh, she's absolutely gorgeous. Congratulations, you guys.
Thank you.
So Joe, how's it been?
It's been amazing. A few long days in the hospital, but worth it. And she's just been a doll. Pure joy.
Oh, that's amazing. So happy for you. You know what? In a world of craziness right now and unrest, we can all use some more good news, right?
I got to give a shout out to the staff at Mount Sinai. They absolutely were amazing, super attentive, friendly, supportive, you know, whatever we needed, because we need to be in the hospital for 3 days.
Oh, yes.
They were there. So, right,
and Mama Addie's doing good?
Addie's doing well, yeah. She's recovering now, but everything is good.
Oh, she's so. Are you getting some sleep?
Yeah, we came home yesterday, so my mother-in-law took the baby and put her in her room overnight, and I got to get a good like 8-9 hours of sleep. And then after, you know, the recliners that they give the husband to sleep on in hospital, might as well sleep on a rock.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Well, I'm gonna let Mia go because she's ready to go to sleep because we just.
Oh, we're so happy Mia could join us tonight, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. In typical fashion, we can't do these shows without thanking all of you, our loyal viewers and supporters. Thank you guys so much for the love every single week. Of course, a shout out to Maria and Joseph, our production team, at Frequency 5 FM and the entire Frequency 5 FM family. And of course, again, recruitment and career coach and dear friend Joseph Stetter tonight with our special guest. And of course, Joe invited Liam tonight, Liam Kearney, and we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of things. I really wanted to say, first of all, you know, we can't really do this show and any shows without at least touching upon some of the unrest that's going on in the world and locally as well. And really the basis tonight, we always cover different topics and different themes and life topics, and you guys know the drill. Let us know who's on. Let us know what's going on with you guys, how you guys are doing, and I don't know how many weeks with this lockdown. I've lost track. And if you've got any questions or comments, please do let us know. But I just wanted to start off, even though we want to talk tonight about, obviously these are very trying times with respect to COVID-19 and how the job market was already pretty touch and go beforehand. And now for the last 3 or 4 months, one can say that it's pretty unsettling and unstable, and we don't know what's happening. A lot of people are very fearful for their jobs, if they're going to have work and where they're going to find the next job and what have you. And of course, that's where Joe comes in. And then with Liam being here as well, I want him, to obviously touch upon, his experiences and of course his relationship with Joe, because I know Joe and Liam have worked together, in the past. And I think it's really important to understand the relationship between a job seeker and a recruiter, because I think that sometimes recruiters do get the short end of the stick, and they're misunderstood, if I can say that, and they really are a wealth of knowledge and help. The secret is communication, open and authentic, and just open dialogue and about what everyone wants to get out of this and what people are looking for. So that said, before I pass it along to Joe and Liam, and of course we're going to address the comments. I see Jimmy is on. Jimmy, how are you? You better be on Thursday night. I want to say right off the bat, you guys, Thursday night, Julie and I are doing my early birthday show celebrations. It's actually not until Sunday, but I want you guys all on. I want everybody to come out and just, again, with this craziness that's going on out there, I want everybody to just come into to the show, let your hair down a little bit, and join us for some positivity. So Jimmy, that includes you. Debbie Jones is watching. Thank you so much. We've got Dwayne Mightley on. Dwayne, how are you? We're waiting for your song for Julia and me. Jermalyn Barnes is watching. Hi, lovely. How are you? Great to see you on here. How have you been? How are you doing? So guys, let's talk about this a little bit. You know, I've always said that the best way to get through things, regardless of whether in life or in business, is to help one another, to support one another, and to ask for help. A lot of times, people don't even know if they can ask for help, where to ask for help, and if they should ask for help, right? And no more is that more powerful now, you know, than before, even though it was really important before. So let's start the conversation with Joe. Now that we're in, I don't know, week 12 or something like that of this, can you talk to us and the viewers about, again, what have you been seeing in terms of the last, obviously, 3 months? And what are some of your observations for the next, you know, few months as things start to ease up a little bit, restrictions start to ease up, we hope, and people are starting to get back out there. And then Liam, I'd like for you to also talk about what you're finding right now currently as someone who is, you know, working from home or doing your own thing. Talk to us about that, and then we're going to go back to a little bit about your relationship with Joe and how you guys know each other. So Joe, let's start with you.
Well, I think that there is now more and more of kind of awareness that recruiters might have ins to jobs and have relationships that the average person doesn't have. And this is why I'm so adamant right now. I'm going to start this week, towards the end of this week, launching my kind of, it's called Land Your Dream Job 2020. It's a Facebook group. And there will be live Zoom calls every other day. And during those live Zoom calls, I'm going to be coaching people one-on-one live as I'm doing the Zoom calls to help kind of people find the jobs. Because unfortunately right now, there is kind of a big wave of, I think the statistics right now is that between Canada and the United States, we're at already 35 million people that have officially been let go and are now looking for employment, or in that transition phase where they haven't been let go, but they're not working. And at the moment, there's no sign of them coming back yet. And so there's a level where more and more people are going, okay, I'm sending a few resumes, I'm not getting responses. Let me try to go to more resources. And, you know, for some reason, there's an old job postings that I've had that I don't know if like Glassdoor kind of swept my website that I didn't remove that I had before, but I have people reaching out to me going, oh, I heard you have a like this and this role. I'm like, no, that role is from 2.5 years ago. I have no idea why Glassdoor did that, but they're reaching out because there's that level of, oh, maybe there's a little bit of traction and there's a little bit of momentum going on right now.
Are companies hiring during this period of time? Have they been hiring? Are they going to be hiring? What are you? What
so it's kind of a two-part answer to that, because I think that the kind of called now frontline role, but the retail, this is not going to be hiring anytime soon. The minimum wage job, the skilled workers, there's more and more need for them, because even though things are remote, life is starting to kind of move forward in the sense that with some countries reopening right now and kind of hope of like restaurants reopening and things like that, there is traction in, you know what, we need to ramp up our IT services, we need to ramp up our engineering, we need to ramp up our, you know, even let's say accounting right now have been hiring. I know there's accounting firms that have been hiring because tax season, although from the home, they found that people are so busy at home that they've needed to ramp up during tax season, which never happens. Kind of.
Right.
So,
right.
You know, there's still a delay with construction because new projects aren't restarting. Ones that were already in place kind of and are somewhat funded are going through, but, you know, with the demands on IT infrastructure with Zoom crashing and stuff like that, there's a ton of, you know what, we need data entry, we need this to be able to transition some of our work to virtual to be able to do that. So there is some movement in the workforce.
Yeah.
And this is where I've shared before, and I'll start again. I'll send you the email of the resources for people to have
Oh, yes,
part-time jobs.
please. We're going to send it out again. Yeah. That'd be
Right,
great.
because like being a virtual assistant right now, huge demand for it right now, because doctors, psychologists that are trying to do virtual appointments, they're not used to having kind of the amount of emails, the amount of phone calls, the amount of this. So they're hiring the virtual right now. They're hiring. There's a need for data entry. There's a need for various little jobs right now where without setting up a full landing page and full online business, you can offer your services and make a few $100s per service, but they add up. If you have 5 clients that are paying you as a virtual assistant a couple $100, let's say a week, you have 5 of them, you've just made $1,000 without kind of setting up the full business. So there is a need for that right now.
Yeah.
And again, it's in that limbo stage where a lot of the people that are on the kind of the frontline retail kind of warehouse jobs, warehouse is booming. Like Amazon's hiring like crazy right now.
Right.
And like in and around the GTA, they cannot hire fast enough right now for it because their business is going through the roof. And so there's that level of, you might not be in a restaurant, but there's opportunities at Amazon. There's opportunities like bakeries are starting to reopen, and you're seeing that they're not bringing the full staff back, but they're starting to bring people to take care of the needs. Whatever is automated in the warehouse for the bakeries, they do that. But the day-to-day, we need the cashier, we need the somebody to replenish the shelf.
Yeah.
There seems to be traction on that. There seems to be.
And Joe, I want to get back to you in a minute. Thank you for that. I want to actually ask, I'm going to get to Liam now, but I want to ask you both, but Joe, specifically, if you think that things are reopening too soon. I actually think they are a little bit, but we'll get into that discussion in a minute.
Later, yeah.
Liam, welcome to Anything Goes to Business, and I really appreciate you being here. And so why don't you walk us through how you know Joe, how amazing Joe is, and how he's helped you, in the past. And I want you to then translate that to currently how you're seeing the job market in general, but also how it's affecting you. And let us know what you do, for a living, and if you've had to pivot and, get onto the sort of the online world of business, or if that's already where you were before. So let us know what's going on in your world.
Sure, thank you very much. So the short version is I met Joe through an event I was speaking at last year. And we actually both ended up speaking on the same night at that. But I had met him and we got chatting, and I moved to Toronto just over 4 years ago from Ireland. So that brought its own set of challenges coming in as a new immigrant as well. But I met him, and kind of a lot of the points that he's speaking to this evening and what he's very good at is like he has, I would say, almost too much information. Like if you meet him first off, it overflows out of him,
Right, right. There's so much, right?
Yeah.
You're not the first to say that.
That's not a bad thing, though. That's a good thing.
The funny end of it is, it's kind of like you were talking about, let's just call it like the interesting times when with COVID and our places reopening too soon, or, what's the process, and our companies hiring and not hiring. I think that's where some of Joe's expertise really gives people the ability to level up right now, because I actually think right now, if you're looking for a job, I'd say right now is one of the greatest opportunities you'll probably ever get for looking for work or looking to pivot or looking for things, because there's so much uncertainty for a lot of people that if you happen to be one of those people that comes in, that interviews well, that actually is solid in themselves and is solution oriented, you may have your expertise in whatever area, but when you come in and you show, let's just call it the can-do attitude and the willingness to actually just get things done for a company, that's still very rare, to be honest. So if coming in and showing that ability, which was one of the things that Joe helped me do as well. Like I went through the whole process, and he he does a really good, what I'll call like vetting process up front, as in like what are you looking for? What are your areas of expertise? What kind of roles do you want? What kind of companies do you want to work for? And has kind of, let's just say, like a short, medium, and long-term strategy depending on where you are in the spectrum for that as well. So he helped me to look at a lot of my expertise in areas and put them in a way that I hadn't necessarily thought about them, but also put them in a way that people are looking for them. But also one of the key things that I remember talking to him about was you have to be very clear yourself on what way you're okay selling yourself. You know, if you put things in a way that you're trying to be all things for everybody, you just kind of get uncomfortable and the conversations get a little bit weird.
And Liam, if I can interrupt you there for just a
Sure.
sec, Joe and I have numerous conversations about this, numerous, and I have conversations with a lot of people like this. I always say, decide what you stand for, but also decide what you want people to know you for. Like you can have, 20, 30, 40 skills and areas of expertise or specialty, you know what I mean? But to be able to tell somebody within a minute or two, right? All of that, you really have to drill it down, and you have to focus on one or two things. And Joe and I talk about this because lots of times I think people spend so much time wanting to get their name out there, which is not a bad thing at all. That what ends up happening though is their message gets diluted, their brand gets diluted, right? And then all of a sudden companies are looking at you going, okay, well, what are you doing this? Are you doing that? Or are you doing this? So I just wanted to make that comment. The question I have for you, Liam, is when looking for work is already difficult enough, right? Especially when you're going in and you're going in cold and you're submitting a resume online. When you came to Canada from Ireland, did you come across companies and hiring managers that were basically saying to you, Liam, great credentials, but like, what local experience do you have? Or did they take what you were doing back there and going, I think you could do it for us here? Or was it a bit of both?
So there was a little bit of both. Like I was really surprised because having had a lot of good corporate experience, I got here and I did run into you don't have any Canadian experience. And, as a thinking person, I was like, is this really happening? Like, is this a real conversation? But really what it comes down to is well, I think there's two sides of it. One is I think people will use that a little bit for leverage, but also it does become how well are you going to fit into life in Canada, because it's different. So the couple of differences that I noticed here, kind of straight off the bat, was things were a little bit more casual. As in there are more like I was used to more of the.
I think we lost Liam, possibly. Nope. Oh, there he is.
Am I back?
Yeah.
You're back.
So the thing I noticed was that interviewing process is a little bit more casual here. Like I was used to more of like the full suit and tie in Ireland, but when I got here, it's a little bit more casual, and people are looking more for how well do you fit in a team, as opposed to do you have the right pieces on the resume. There's more of a mix of both of those pieces. But I had gone through I had gone through a couple of different roles with a couple of big media companies. And sorry, so what I do is I work in media. I've kind of 10 or 15 years background in advertising, marketing, direct selling, websites, funnels, like you name it, like anything that fills into all those types of pieces. And I work now for a large media company up in Aurora. So we do a lot of print, a lot of direct mail, a lot of e-commerce sites, all of that end of things, and software systems. And so like on a simple level, I generally end up working with a lot of companies through transition as they're growing, as they're changing and adapting into new ways of doing things. I'm pretty solid in that space. But going back to you'd kind of asked about, let's just call it the marketplace at the moment. And I do see a lot of like certain industries at the moment are really going to kind of like Joe had said, Amazon. Like we do a lot of dealings with Canada Post, and obviously some of their subsidiaries with the, you know, Purolator and things like that. We're giving you an idea with the volume that's going through. You know, at the start of May, they probably delivered like over 2 million pieces.
Wow.
On the first Monday of the month, and that's more than they would deliver at peak times at Christmas. So
wow, that's insane. Yeah.
Anybody who's delivering things at the moment or connected to that, there's plenty of opportunity there. And we're seeing now, just with companies reopening, how do you communicate to your employees and to people coming in the appropriate things to keep everybody safe? So if it's floor stickers, if it's curbside pickup, if it's signage in your windows, if it's directing people to your website, like all of those things, they're pieces that people never really had to think about before.
Yeah, and Liam, just to that point, thank you very much for that so far.
I just want to say one thing before you say something, Mirella.
Yeah.
Just to what Liam's pointed out, like, you know, you don't have Canadian experience. Here's the irony about that statement. There is no such thing as Canadian experience. In fact, it is illegal to ask for Canadian experience, but it's a loophole in the system, as Liam said, to see that you culturally fit into the organization. It's also a loophole on how good your communication skills as opposed to Canadians.
That's why I asked the question, because I've seen it time and time again. Yeah.
And it's a sad state of affairs that Canada as a country does not recognize real experience from around the world. And there's a level where it's forced with blinders on almost, because, you know, it's good that you got an education, it's good that you got experience. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate that there's differences, let's say, between a third world country, medical, and there, but something like marketing, where you can take a product from not making any revenue and generate, let's say, $700,000 in a few months. I know Liam did this for a whiskey, right? For a whiskey, because I remember writing that on his resume and helping him with that. That speaks volume. You cannot take that away from anybody, regardless of where they've done it. And especially since a country like Ireland is under the Commonwealth, the principles of business are the same, because it's still under kind of British law in the sense of the way that we do things, right? Yeah. So it's ironic that it's, you know, on the one hand, yes, you're great, but on the other hand, are you great enough for Canada, kind of thing? And I've had multiple experiences with that, not only with my father when he came to Canada. My father was fluent in 10 languages. He built all the highways in Ivory Coast. And he basically, after 9.5 months of looking for work, he went to kind of a smaller construction company, said, I will work here for free for 2.5 months. If during those 2.5 months, my work is not as good as any Canadian project manager, you don't pay me and you can get rid of me at any time. But at the end of the 2.5 months, if my work is as good as any Canadian project manager, you hire me as a project manager for the company and you pay me for the 2.5 months I worked. Within 3.5 weeks, they made him the senior project manager for the entire company once they saw his work ethic and saw his.
Yeah, I love that strategy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I had, cousins that are world-renowned ear, nose, and throat specialists that were brought in from Israel by the University of Toronto to teach the professors and their surgeons what they know about ear, nose, and throat surgery. A year into their kind of exchange program, we'll call it that, they kind of went, you know what, Canada is a very peaceful country. It's very beautiful. We would like to stay here. And they approached UFT and said, would you sponsor us to come here to work? And the University of Toronto said, you don't have Canadian experience, we can't hire you. And they said, but you guys brought us in because we're internationally renowned. And they said, yeah, but it's an exchange program, so it doesn't count as Canadian experience. And to me, that is just dumb. Pardon my language, but it's a waste of talent and energy. And unfortunately, this is something that when I met Liam, he was getting frustrated where people are underselling how much he's worth because he had a great resume, but like I just kind of tweaked and highlight the results that he had produced. And the moment that the results were there, all of a sudden people didn't look at where, because I also took off that his experience was in Ireland. And I told him, if this comes up, you take ownership of it in terms of getting rid of the pink elephant, but get the interview first. Because once you're in the interview, even if it's a second of awkwardness where you say, listen, before we start, I just want to tell you that my experience was in Ireland. I hope you'll give me a chance to prove how great I am in what I do. it wasn't an issue, and he got hired very quickly into a position. And I'm super happy for that. But it's that level of, a lot of times, even Canadian job seekers, they write the cookie cutter, resume, which is, I know how to do this, I know how to do this, I know how to do this, but nobody cares. Nobody cares how to do it. They want to know what results you can produce. What's the impact that you can make, in essence.
And that's why I asked the question, Joe, because I know, first of all, again, we've had tons of conversations about this. I really appreciate people that are open-minded, really open-minded, that can see outside of the four walls that they're in, or the 4 inches in front of them. And a lot of times, the way I see it, as Joe has said too, and Liam, I'm sure you can appreciate this, when you get that wealth of knowledge and experience and expertise from all over the world, and you bring it locally, or you get it locally and you bring it to other parts of the world, that is something that you're doing that's making you really well-rounded in your depth of expertise. And that should be something that should be applauded and should be awarded, as opposed to seen as something that is an obstacle, right? Or a roadblock. It just frustrates the crap out of me when like Joe said, it's just dumb. And I don't know how else to say it. I just think that people need to be more open-minded when they see, like, there's such great talent out there, right? So I wanted to say that. Let's go to sort of the current state of affairs. Liam, you work for a company, or do you have your own company, or do you have a side hustle?
Yes, to all of the above. So I was going to say, I've kind of I work for a company at the moment, and I also have I have a couple of different pieces I do on the side as well. Like, I offer marketing services, and I do I build websites, I build sales funnels, and I coach people. So a mix of all of that. And I work with a company in sales, and essentially it's working with companies to work on their branding and look after the printing, and kind of like a mix of bringing my knowledge to the plate with all of that stuff.
Yeah, so the question, that's great. It's amazing. The question I wanted to ask is, everything pretty much slowed down to a halt for the last, 3-4 months. And large companies affected, small businesses affected, entrepreneurs affected, everybody affected. What are your thoughts, you guys, about, do you think that things are being opened up a little too soon, especially with all of this, all these gatherings right now? And I get it, I understand, people are frustrated and they're angry and all of that. But do you think that businesses are opening too soon? But a second part of that is, what do you guys see, maybe some predictions or even observations in terms of how small businesses and or entrepreneurs are going to survive and hopefully prosper over the course of the next, let's be honest, like 3 to 6 months, 9 months even, right? Because this is not something that was just going to be a couple of weeks. We all thought that, but here we are 3-4 months later, and it's going to affect a lot of people, because people aren't sure if they're going to be able to pay their mortgage next month, let alone being able to pay for auxiliary services. So I guess what I'm saying is, because I've noticed it too, I'm seeing it, I'm experiencing it. People are, it's not that they don't want to invest in themselves or their businesses, and they don't want to hire other people to get them there, but they're just being very, rightfully so, prudent with the money that they have, in order to make sure that they're paying for their rent and food. So what are you seeing, and what are your thoughts on this for the foreseeable future anyway?
Do you want to jump in there, Joe? Will I go? I'll go.
I think we lost Joe. Oh, there, he's back. Maybe he's frozen. Okay, Liam, you go, and then we'll go.
No, I'm back now. I'm back now. Sorry, my Zoom crashed on me twice and then rebooted, so I'm back.
Okay, I don't know if you heard any of that.
Bits and pieces. I think there was a question on LinkedIn, but
okay, we'll get Liam to start off, and then we'll come back to you, Joe.
Okay, perfect.
Well, I think it's interesting, just as in a lot of what I think you've touched on with this evening is, let's just call it, belief as a core piece.
Right.
So whether it's somebody looking for work, whether it's somebody connecting with a recruiter, whether it's a business owner, an entrepreneur, anybody dealing with what's there right now, I think on a core level, it really comes back to kind of like, what area do you want to stand in? because there is opportunity for growth. And I get it that there's a lot of unknown there and there's a lot of fear around. But it kind of comes down to which quadrant do you want to stand in for your pieces. And let's just call it like people who've been around the block in business, who've been through recessions, things like that. They'll know that you always come out of it. Like, you may not know exactly what way you will come out, but you kind of have to look and see where you're at right now. Like, are you in a good headspace yourself? And if you are, what can you do to, let's just say, put that good foot forward and go and talk to people and help people and offer services? And essentially you can't go wrong with that. You know, that will always expand and help yourself and everybody else. And I'm going to use the term that I really hate, but it's like when people say like it's okay to not be okay. I think so many people have had what I call like okay as the facade that's been over a lot of things. And so at the moment, I think that there's the space for a lot of emotions and a lot of things to come up that people aren't used to dealing with. And that can be uncomfortable, but if you're not in a good space, it's about kind of like recognizing it, acknowledging it, and looking to see, you know, what can you help do to shift that. And that's kind of on the basic level with all of this. There are going to be businesses that will go out of business. There are going to be businesses that will thrive. You know, there's always people who make money in recessions.
Yes.
And I believe that if you're willing to kind of do the work on yourself to be clear in yourself, then, you know, if you're going out and you're applying for a job, things just have a way of working themselves out a little bit, you know. Or if your business isn't quite where it needs to be at, suddenly, you know, you take a step in a direction you weren't 100% sure of, you connect with a person, and just things start to open up. And
Right.
I really, really do believe in that to a core. It's kind of, you do get back wherever you're at, not where you say you're at.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I do. I'm always like the optimist, you know. I'm always looking at everything, you know, optimistically, that everything's going to be okay. I know a lot of people, even before COVID, they've been struggling, and there's a lot of, you know, fighters out there, survivors, people that have prospered, that are just resilient and what have you. From a standpoint of logistics, what do you guys think? So the government offered up, you know, 4 months worth of government assistance, 4 or 5 months, however. And I don't know all the details here, but I know that they extended to help businesses, you know, extend so that they don't have to terminate their employees and ultimately have to pay out severance, right? Which would obviously further hurt a lot of businesses. But those employees that are currently on temporary leave, as opposed to laid off, right, are at home, right? Hopefully trying to help continue to flatten the curve of this pandemic. But in another month and a half, the government assistance is going to run out. So if businesses cannot call back their employees, but employees cannot continue to get government assistance to pay their bills and, you know, put food on the table, what happens from there on end? So do you guys see, what do you guys?
Can I jump in on that? Because I also want to touch in on what
Absolutely you can.
So there's a couple things, because on the one hand, and here's what I'm going to say, Liam touched on a very good point, that you need to be creative on your messaging. You need to be creative on this.
Yeah.
The problem right now is that so many people are kind of scrambling to go, I'm not doing anything. I want to go from nothing to, you know, we'll call it Fortune 500 company coming almost overnight. So like, let's say my LinkedIn, I'm an open networker, so I pretty much welcome everybody. But there's a level where when you're spamming my LinkedIn with, hey, we offer SEO services and we offer this and we offer this, or you know, new health product or this, I'm like, you don't know anything about me. Like, take a few minutes to ask a few questions. So if you like, for the people that are like in the marketing realm that create the landing pages, yes, the landing pages are there for the internet to connect, but you need to be able to be, because we've talked about this on a few shows, authentic. Share a little bit of your story, share a little bit about your background, share about what makes you an expert, as opposed to, hi, I'm an expert, and I'm now the end all, the be all, and I know you don't know anything about me, but trust me, I'm the expert, kind of thing. Similarly on LinkedIn,
I laugh. You know why I'm laughing.
yes,
Too
right,
true.
right. But similarly on LinkedIn, there's a level where if you're going to use resources to find jobs like LinkedIn, if you're going to use, and again, I'm a big advocate of LinkedIn, the in-mail function on LinkedIn, as much as it might cost you $45 a month for 10 emails that are not in your network,
Right,
instead of
right.
sending an email saying, hey, I need a job, right? You haven't built relationship with the person. Send an email, say, tell me about you. Tell me about why you're so successful. Tell me about your biggest achievements. Tell me about what you're most proud of. Then once you've done that, you've established rapport, because now the person has chosen to speak to you. And then there's an opportunity to kind of transition into, hey, you know what? As someone who's successful, someone a VP or whatever, would you mind, let's say, critiquing my resume? You're not asking for a job, you're asking for their expertise. Now, if they're critiquing your resume as a VP or whatever level that you're reaching out to, they're basically writing the resume that they're going to hire for their team. And so you create that differentiator factor, because it's not the generic, it's not going through the database, which looks for certain words and looks for certain things. And a lot of great candidates are being missed because it's not. So, like, great, set up the funnel, set up there, but also take the time in your funnels that even if you're sending people to your funnel, if they're going to your Facebook page, there's videos, and there's videos of you being kind of, okay, let me tell you what happened to me. Let me tell you my background of why this interested me and why I started mastering this.
You're talking about relationship building with people. That's what you're talking about,
but
right?
as much as we're in an online world right now, the funny thing is everybody's talking about the fact that we don't have enough relationship. Like, yes, there's craziness happening in the world right now, not only with COVID, but with the atrocities that happen in the States and stuff like that. But again, we need to come back to the human factor. We need to come back and go, how can we appreciate each other? And I appreciate there's discriminate. Like, I'm Jewish.
Can I just say hallelujah? Yes.
Like, I'm Jewish. I've had anti-Semitism. I've been, I've experienced it firsthand, being overweight, being this. I've experienced that. And there's a level where you can either build up anger and build up hate. And I'm sorry, like, look, and I'm going to say this is an extreme case, and I apologize there, but like, Jews, World War II happened, 6 million Jews were murdered, not killed, like murdered. But instead of using that as a crutch to say, you know what, for us, the Jewish people have kind of made it mandatory to advance, to better themselves, to learn, to get educated, to contribute to society. And because of that, on the one hand, it's like, we'll never forget. And we recognize Holocaust, we teach it, we make sure that, if nothing else, the Jewish kids of future generation know what happened. But it's not a model of, just because it happened doesn't mean we can't progress, doesn't mean we can't move forward. Yes, there's always going to be ignorant people. There's always going to be people that are very easily manipulated because they're simple-minded and therefore go, well, this is what the media told me, let's agree with it. But there's also a level of going, look, it's not about that. It's about understanding that, okay, there are differences, whether it's religious, cultural, whatever versions of differences there is, language there. But at the end of the day, human beings, if you look at how much people come together, like now with COVID, with people doing, as Liam said, deliveries, even for food for people that, let's say, have asthma and can't leave the house, and the gratitude that people have that, like, I have a friend that has severe asthma. So when I go shopping, I call and say, do you need anything? I'll bring it to your house, kind of thing. And the gratitude that this person has for the fact that I think about them and I'm willing to help them in this crazy time when I'm still kind of taking care of my family. But okay, you know what? You can pay me later. You can pay me later. There's Interact money transfers. There's this, but it's the sense of humanity. It's a sense of kind of, we need to come together. And
It's not negotiable. Joseph,
Right.
sorry to interrupt you. First of all, those were great. I know they're not your final thoughts, but they could have been, because they're so powerful. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I cannot stress it enough. I've said it over and over and over again, right? We are all here, hopefully, to help one another. And a lot of times, listen, I've seen situations where, to your point, people don't even know what I do or what I'm about, or anything. And the minute you connect, that second you connect, they're at you with the website details, and here's my corporate brochure, and sign up and all of this, But one thing I will say, maybe that's not the tried and tested way to build relationship and rapport and start to get business, and but at least you got to give people the credit that they're trying, they're putting themselves out there, they're doing something, they're trying to ask for help. And I always say this, that in an environment, in a situation, a community, in the world, we have to embrace, we have to support, and we have to embrace. We may not all agree on how to get to where we need to go, but I've said it. I say it every single day, and through my posts and my shows, that unity and strength of unity, right? And love is where it's at. And then everything else can come from there. I know there's a lot of hostility right now out there, and people are frenzied and frantic because, first of all, we've been locked down for 3-4 months because of this thing. And it's like totally threw off everybody's quality of life. Okay. Then with all this unrest, the injustice, okay, all of this, it's again ridiculous. We know, and like there's so many passionate people. I think together, individually, we can all do our part, and I think, of course, together we can be so powerful. I still think it comes down to leaning on one another, being able to feel that you can go ask for help, to someone. So I take it back to the workplace anyway, and the recruitment side of things. Joe, as a recruiter, Liam comes to you and says, Joe, I'm out of work, I need some help, blah, blah, blah. You can handle it as many different ways as you want, right? With respect to giving free advice, helping with the resume, giving Liam, examples of what to expect, the interview process, this, that, and the other, right? And then Liam, in your case, with respect to everything that you have learned and been through, and as someone who is employed and working, you pay it forward. You're going to help other people. You're going to hopefully give, your wisdom and your insights, and you pay it forward. And I think that's where the world is a beautiful place, and it comes together when it's reciprocal. You know what I'm saying? But I find that sometimes when I said recruiters get a hard time, when I first joined LinkedIn 2-3 years ago, oh my God, every other post was hating on recruiters. And I was just like, what's going on right now, and that's why I said sometimes they're misunderstood, because it's like I'm sure, Joe, you found this, that people blame you when they didn't get a job, even though you did everything in your power to help them get ready for the job.
Look, there's a level where in recruiting, at least I had a statement that I'm only as good as my last candidate. And unfortunately, when desperation kicks in, logic goes out. And there's
Yes.
there's
Well
a level
said.
that, find me a job. And what candidates don't understand is that there's good and bad recruiters, like any other industry. There's good and bad in everything.
Yes.
There's politics, internal and external, in recruiting. There is companies like one of my clients, Tata Consulting Services, phenomenal company, big company. They used to drive me bananas because they would tell me that they need urgently this many people right away. And then after I would work 18-hour days to get them what they need, they were like, okay, put it on hold for 3 months, for example. And as a recruiter, like there's only so much I can tell my candidate, you know what, sorry, it's being held up. Because I have no control over it. It could also be like, as much as I as a recruiter might love, let's say, a candidate like Liam for a particular role, my client might go, I don't know if it's the right fit. I don't know if I like the resume. I don't know if it's there. So there's that factor, because the recruiter kind of plays both part of the fence. On the one hand, he represents the company that's paying him or her to find people.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, he's representing the candidate, because recruiters work on commission. So the higher and the better the salary that we can get you. Number one, the candidate's happier. Number two, we make more commission. Number three, it creates a win-win-win situation because the company gets a person that they want, the candidate gets a salary that they want, and kind of the relationship is built because everybody wins. But again, when there's one side that kind of plays games with you and says, yes, I need them, then never mind, I changed my mind, or I don't know, it's exactly like this, or they don't have this word on their resume, or they don't have this skill set on their resume. Like, you know, my personal philosophy as a recruiter has been, if a candidate has 60% of what's on the job description, they're a great candidate. Because a lot of times the job descriptions are generic. And if it's a particular...
There needs to be more recruiters like you. No, I say this, Joe, sorry to interrupt.
Right, so if there's a technical skill, the company will pay for you to learn a software or a technical skill.
Yeah.
But you cannot teach personality. You cannot teach, like, you can teach relationship building, but you either understand relationships or you don't, kind of thing. So if your approach is to bark and scream and yell at everybody, you're not going to have the best relationships, and chances are...
you don't say.
And chances are people that are either currently working for you or have worked for you will probably post on websites like Glassdoor how bad it is to work there. So given that candidates are a little bit more informed these days, they'll go to an interview and then they'll go on Glassdoor and they'll read the reviews. And if the reviews are negative, they go, yeah, I really am desperate for a job, but is it really worth my health, my sanity, my well-being to be screamed at, yelled at, and be treated like shit every day? And there's a catch-22, and you're right. Like, this situation is very extreme because a combination of, you know, especially, you know, I'm a new proud father, but for parents that have teenagers or even younger, you know, 7-year-olds to 15-year-olds, to be with them all day, keep them busy, do their job, do their, like, it's nonstop, and there's no opportunity to breathe. There's no opportunity to kind of get your sanity for a lot of people.
Millennials don't even, it doesn't.
Right, but for a lot of opportunities, going to the office is a break from the family chaos, let's say, because
yes, that's true. That's true.
And there's, you know, human beings are creatures of habit, so we get used to a routine, even if it's not the most ideal routine. It's still a routine, for example. So Liam touched on it earlier, where, you know, a candidate needs to be in a state of mind of, I have a lot to offer, and this is the lane that I want to go in, and this is how good I am. Mm-hmm. But as a candidate, you also, like, because when I write resumes, and Liam can kind of attest to that, I guessed his results. And can
I jump in for a sec here? Because one of the things, Morella, you touched on earlier was just that thing of, let's just call it like, positivity goes around and makes a difference. And one of the things with my experience with Joseph was, there has to be a level in the middle somewhere of what's actually going to make a difference for the person, because we all have those people in our lives who, let's just call it, the story never changes, and that's just like the continuous loop. And with, let's just call it, the recruitment phase here, if I come to him with whatever I've got going on, if he doesn't actually have the belief in himself to actually just say, no, this is actually the deal, like, this is the way it goes, if you go in and you do that, it's not going to help you. So it's like it's finding that balance in there between what I'll call being nice and treating the person well, and bringing them along, but also giving them the information that's actually going to be crucial in that piece to have them grow to wherever they need to grow as well. And it's like finding that balance, because it is a unique situation we're in at the moment. But having said that, like, the recruiters, the good people, and what I would call, like, we've seen it with marketing, and you guys have both talked on it in both ends. It's like something on the lead up into all of this was also way off. You know, I know you've done some stuff on like internet dating and things like that, but it's kind of like, as things went online, everything became about, oh, I just connected, I just swiped right with this person, I'll send them an inappropriate pic. And it's like,
Joe talks about that, but so do I.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. It's like you get them on LinkedIn, you get them in the mail, you get them, you know, on a dating app, you get them in things, and it's just like, when you're paying attention and you're like connected to yourself and you're listening to your emotions, when you get one of those things, it's so out of left field. So yes, making the initial approaches is important, and going in and selling yourself is really important, but it's also if you have the time and you actually use the two things you've got here, like, and
Yes.
actually like ask questions and listen, you'll get like way farther. And I do agree with you. You do need to have some sort of action in there that moves you forward too.
Liam, thank you so much. First of all, both of you, amazing. We are we got a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes or so, 10 or 15. So we're going to get into sort of our final thoughts in a little bit. But before that, you touched on one of my favorite subjects, which is social media dating and social media insanity, and not necessarily in that order. But anyway, having said that, one of the things I wanted to maybe make a comment about, but also a question for this conversation, okay? We all know, right, that, and we've heard it, we know people have said it, that if people aren't, let's say, over their last relationship, so I'll do what Joe often does so eloquently and compare like relationships and dating with the, the job market, looking for work. But if someone's not over their ex, or they're not over their last relationship, or they're just newly, divorced, let's say, do you think that they're in any position perhaps to, start a new relationship because maybe they're still dealing / grieving the last one? Maybe they're not ready. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe their mental health, their mindset is not in it. Now, mind you, a lot of times people just automatically assume, well, it's something new. Maybe it's a rebound. Maybe they don't see it as a rebound, but it's a rebound. It'll help me get over this situation. It'll help me, So fast forward into the job market. I think a lot of times what happens is if you're not mentally prepared, or you're not in a space to give your best, whether it be your best on your resume, your best in the interview, your best to secure this job, it is going to hurt you, right? So right now, with this stuff going on, 4 months, people are suffering. Like people are dealing with a lot of depression and anxiety, and I don't know what's going to happen, and how am I going to, you know what I'm saying? So what advice do both of you have, for people who are nervous, are fearful, are scared, but they really need work, they really need to look for work? What advice do you give in mental preparedness, in just being confident and assured that they are going to just knock it out of the park, whether it be the interview or just, hitting the apply button on LinkedIn, for example, and putting their resume out there?
So I'm going to start quick because I want to come back afterwards on my final thoughts. But again, so I'm creating a full support program online, Land Your Dream Job 2020 on Facebook. Please join the group so that, again, I can invite you to the Zoom calls and kind of give you that support and guidance. Beyond that, as I said, I'm providing people free resources that if they reach out to me on Land Your Dream Job 2020 or otherwise, they can start working from home to subsidize their income. And as we started this conversation, there's a level where there's experts out there. Even if you speak to multiple experts until you find the one that you like, use that support system, because let's say one of the things with Liam, he was great at what he did. And even though, like, first time, as Liam said, I'm very excited and I give a ton of information. When I gave him the information and he went back and tried to kind of, let's say, write the resume on his own, he was a little bit overwhelmed with how much information I gave him. And then when he reached out for me,
there was too much, too much, and didn't know how to compartmentalize it all, you mean?
Well, it was just kind of too many things. And so when he kind of reached out to me again and said, can you help me and can you support me? One of the things I said earlier, when I wrote his resume, when I write people's resume, I guess the results because I don't know how much or how little they do at work. And then the first thing I say to the candidate is change the numbers to what you feel is appropriate and that you're confident communicating in an interview, because it's not the size of the number that matters. It's the fact that you've produced results.
Right.
Right. And, if I say, Liam, you generated, $3 million in sales, and Liam goes, no, it was only $1 million. Between $1 million and $3 million, it doesn't make a difference. It's the fact that you generated the results, for example. And that's one of the things that I have a lot of conversations with people when I coach them and I help them, is to kind of go, look, I don't care if it's one, if the number is one, as long as there's a number, because the number gives value. You know, when someone, like, even for teenagers, let's say, I babysit. Okay, well, how many kids do you babysit? You know, you babysit 3 kids. There's a level of responsibility. There's a level of pattern that you can show. You should be hired for retail. You should be hired for something like that.
I mean, as opposed to, oh, I did it once last year.
Right. So same thing, even if they don't have a lot of experiences, what are your grades? Do you have at least 1 A? Even if you got in grade 3, I'm not going to say on your resume, I got an A in grade 3. I'm just going to say, I got an A in math, for example.
Right.
And that, all of a sudden, the kids kind of go, oh, wait, I have something to offer. I have something to that. And I think the biggest problem for most job seekers is they're so used to the cookie cutter, bland resume that says, I know how to do this, I know how to do this, I know how to do this, that nobody sees it because there's thousands of resumes now.
Well, because it's a sea of sameness. It's
right.
A sea of sameness.
And so when you can, even if it's one statement on your resume that's a little bit different, a little bit of color on your resume, like for your headings, you know, just any, like using a different bullet point, using, you know, it's something that breaks the ice from the routine. And so in the 8 seconds that an employer is potentially looking in your resume, 8 to 30 seconds, but on the 8 seconds where they're scanning, ooh, there's a little bit of green here. Great, let's put it in the yes file. Why? Because it's different, right? And it gives you, and that's one of the things I told Liam. I go, listen, I don't care if it's because of the colors on your resume. I don't care if it's because of where you work. I don't care if it's because of the results that you produce. As long as you got your foot in the door, part of the services that I'll teach you is how to make sure that once your foot is in the door, how to present the best self of you. And because I'm systemized, it's not robotic, like try to speak like me and say everything. Like, here's the system. Use it the way that works best for you.
Yes.
Right. And that's something that's very important, is that if you follow the system, you're never uncomfortable, because I'm not trying to program people to speak like me. I'm not trying to program people. I'm trying to say, be comfortable. And if you like saying it this way, say it this way, but here's what needs to be said every single time, for example.
So Joel, I gotta interrupt you right there, and I'm so sorry, but just in the interest of time here, so I want to just say a couple of things. First of all, you guys, if you want to reach out, you want to know anything to do with the job market, job searches, job strategies, resumes, interviewing, please reach out to Joseph Stetter. I've had a few people kind of reach out to me lately about just wanting to talk to me about career transition and when to leave a job, when to look for work, and these are folks, not just, you know, older folks like myself, but some younger folks as well. I'm always open to have that conversation. You guys know where to find me. Joe and I work very closely together. So, you know, I just want to put that out there. The second thing I want to mention, Joe may or may not know this, but look out for, I'm always dropping little, you know, surprises on our shows. Joe and I are working on, he's working on his online course program. It's going to be brilliant. And Joe and I are actually going to be putting together a series of different, what I call tidbits of massive nuggets of information around careers and the job market. We're doing them together. I don't know what they look like, webinars, online something, Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, who knows, but it's going to happen, he and I together. And we're going to do a series of these where we're literally going to do like a virtual coaching, you know, kind of like live, as an extension of what he's doing and as an extension of what we're doing, you know, together. So keep an eye out for that. Liam, a little birdie told me while we were on the show that we need to have you on a second segment of Anything Goes to Business. So perhaps you'd like to entertain that so that we can continue this conversation, because as someone that was a job seeker and then new to Canada and someone who's in the workforce right now, I think you can add various levels of you know, wealth of wisdom in the conversation. So let's do, sorry, I want to do final thoughts, but before we do the final thoughts, quickly, you guys, I just want to mention, we will be back tomorrow night, 8:30, with my segment co-host, Mike Popovich. You do not want to miss this episode. We're going to be talking about thriving in the face of adversity and being that positive force in a sea of negativity. You do not want to miss it. It's going to be amazing. Thursday night, join my segment co-host and daughter, beautiful daughter, Julia, for Morella's birthday show celebrations, even though it's a little bit early, but it's going to happen.
We need to call Julia over for the early happy birthday.
No, we do. Right now, you mean? I don't know if she's
Sure.
gonna be, I don't know where she's at. Julia, if you hear this, maybe an early happy birthday for your mom, but you're singing again on Thursday and then again next Thursday, because we're gonna do part 2. You know, the whole point of this, you guys, is we have to embrace the quality moments and the times. We have to embrace, oh, look who's here. Would you like to do a quick impromptu happy birthday for your mom, according to Joe, also new dad?
Which, by the way, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
congratulations again.
Anyways, hi. Okay, well, I'll stand.
All right,
I'll
you want to
stand.
sit on my lap? I don't know.
No. Okay. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to mom. Happy birthday to you. That's it.
Yeah.
And many more.
And
Wow, I never get tired of your voice.
What's
Thank
your
you, baby.
boyfriend's first name? I'm just
Can't wait to see you Thursday night and then in the next 2 minutes because we live together. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. So that's going to happen on Thursday night. Also, you guys, we have been teasing that we have got some hot things happening for not just June, but the whole summer on Anything Goes. We never stop. We're always doing different things. We're always embracing our, our communities and the people that we collaborate with. It's going to be really wonderful. And especially during this time, right, of uncertainty, we thank you guys so very much for allowing us into your homes, on your computers and on your laptops. Really appreciate the love, you guys. All right, let's do some final thoughts. Liam, what do you got?
Well, I think you've kind of both touched on it at various points. You know, when do you lean in? When do you not? You know, what's the right thing to do in the different situations? And I think really most people kind of know. You just have to like lean in a little bit and trust your gut and just go with that, because anything else is gonna just feel like a jacket that doesn't fit that well. So I think, you know, just doing that really simplifies a lot of things, and there's a lot of really good people around you. So just like, you know, open your eyes, look at your community, look at your people, and ask people for suggestions for who to connect to with certain things, and you know, gold will come out of it.
I love that, Liam. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I
You're very
really
welcome.
appreciate it. I know
Thanks for
Joe
having
does
me.
as well. Joe, your final thoughts.
I'm gonna kind of piggyback on what Liam said. You know what? If you don't know, ask, and
Right.
keep asking. If you're not sure if the answer is correct for you, ask why. You know, it's amazing when you ask why, how much information. Like when someone says, "Oh, I'm this," why, and it just takes on some why again.
Yes.
And why again. It's how deep. Like when you go 2 or 3 times deep with why, how much information you can get out of the person just by asking why. So whether I'm the expert that's going to help you transition into a better opportunity, or another expert, by all means, there's a lot of great ones out there. But ask why. Ask questions like, what do you know about this? You know, how can you help me here? What do you suggest here? I had a few people that reached out to me to the old job postings, and they were like, what do you think's happening with the market? And they asked me for the sake of just information. And then I gifted them the free resources to help them. They're like, thank you. And I'm like, even though they're not somebody that I'm representing right now, I was like, here you go. I want you to succeed, you know, because there's a ripple effect when somebody helps you, you know, you recommend them, you kind of pay it forward. And the more we start paying it forward on kind of appreciating each other and appreciating that there's expertise and there's knowledge, like, look, Mirella, you do my marketing. I don't know marketing. I know a little bit because now I've started to learn about it. And there's a level where, because of the fact that, you know what, like your daughter is a brilliant graphic designer, animator, like I don't understand sometimes the brain behind it, but when I ask why did you do the logo this way? Why did you do it that way? I go, okay, maybe I didn't understand it the first time, but now that I'm looking the second time, it makes more sense to me. It connects the dots for me. And there's a level where, you know what, again, especially now where everybody's at home and everybody's online, there's a gazillion resources. There's YouTube videos, there's this, but
Yeah.
if you're finding that the information is a little bit too generic, as Liam said earlier, pinpoint the question, pinpoint the direction that you want to go, and ask questions specific to that so that you can get on track to being successful.
Yes.
Because even in a recession, and this will be a bad recession, there will be opportunities. As Liam said, people will make money, people will lose money. There will be plenty of jobs,
Yes.
not necessarily the job you had before, but it could be a much better fit for you and a much better opportunity, not only in pay, but in how you're being challenged, your opportunity to grow, your opportunity to learn, your opportunity to do this,
Yeah.
that ask for that help and find the mentors and the experts around you that have that level of expertise that move you forward. And if they don't move you forward, keep asking until you find somebody that you like.
I love that. If you don't know, ask. Well said, Joe. Well said. Thank you guys so very much. Okay, my final thoughts, they're going to be a couple. So advance warning right now, fasten your seatbelts. So first of all, I just want to say, I want to say hi to a few folks here, guys. Addie, new mom Addie, how are you? Sweetness, I'm telling you that baby is so beautiful. Congratulations again. Lorena's on. Hi, Lorena, how are you? Thank you so much for tuning in. Doris is on. She says, good evening. Sorry I didn't get to you guys sooner. DJ Victor's in the house. DJ Victor, how are you? How are you doing? We've got Rose watching, Marion. Joe says, great show. Well, thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. So guys, listen, final thoughts. First of all, I want to just say that in the theme of what we talked about tonight, but then in the theme of what's going on in the world, okay? There is so much support and so much love out there, but as much as there's support and there's love, and yeah, I'm going to say it, there's also a few shitheads. And I pardon my French in advance, but it is the anything goes show. And they're going to do everything they can to rain on your parade and try to knock you down. And they're going to try and deflate any motivation and inspiration that you have. I often talk about this. Do not dumb it down for anybody. Believe in yourself. You have the power. You've always had the power. Be that strong warrior that you are. And there are a lot of people that are willing to help you, willing to support, willing to be that shoulder if you need to cry, whatever the case may be. There's so much. Just make sure you align yourself with real, authentic people, because there are real, authentic people out there. Okay, that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is I want to reiterate the final thoughts that I did on Thursday night and almost every night at the end of the shows. COVID-19 is a real thing. It is a real pandemic. It is a lot of people have lost their lives. A lot of just I can't even tell you. But the real virus, although COVID-19 is, but the real virus is the hatred that is in people's hearts. The people that come out spewing, how much love they have and how much compassion they have. But when their true colors come out, okay, the true colors come out. And what I say is we need more love, less hate. We need more peace, and we need to embrace one another. And when we do that, everything else will come together. Okay. And then my final thought, PS, because there's always a PS. In honor of Blackout Tuesday today, and also the atrocities that have been going on in the States and all over the world, I've seen this all over Facebook and on other social media, and I do want to just repeat it if I may, okay? I'm not Black, but I see you. I'm not Black, but I hear you. I'm not Black, but I mourn with you. I'm not Black, but I will fight for you. And together, you guys, we are stronger. So let's do our part. More love. That's my final thoughts, you guys. Thank you so very much. Joe,
Thank you.
Liam, always a pleasure. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you back here tomorrow night, 8:30 on Anything Goes to Business. Have a good night. Bye now.
Bye.
There's our jam. Thanks, you guys. See you.
Bye.